What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Jeremy's Point of View. Here in this episode, we're going to be talking about the NHL trade deadline. There has been a ton of moves going on this past week. It's been pretty crazy. I apologize that this is the first video I have made on the topic. My 5-year-old, well, I should say my 4-year-old, just turned 5 over the weekend. We celebrated a birthday. My mother-in-law was in town from New York. So it's been a crazy few days for myself, so I haven't really had a chance to, make content for you guys and to dive into all this. But I have been keeping track of things. It has been a crazy week, a crazy amount of trades, especially for the New York Rangers, the New Jersey Devils, just so much going on. So I really wanted to do an overall video where we discuss and kind of take a quick look at all the different trades going on and how I feel about the trades, what my thoughts are on it, and then get your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. So before we dive into this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Also, check out the description box below. You guys can find my Teespring store. There, you guys can find wonderful products like this Jeremy's Point of View mug. There's some other stuff on there, and there's going to be more stuff to come in the next few months. I've got some ideas, some designs, some things I've been working on that I'm going to be getting posted on there, so I'm excited about that. Also, check out the channel sponsor, Arcadian. Arcadian makes fantastic, high-quality goat's milk soaps, beard oils, bath bombs, body sprays, you name it, fantastic products. If you check the link below, you'll also find a discount code to save some money on your order. So check that out, especially you Hurricanes fans. Let me double check myself here. So if you use the JPOV25 Canes, so it's JPOV25 Canes, for all my Caniacs out there, you will save 25% off an order. That is the highest discount we have done as of yet, and you only have to spend at least $15 to get that 25%. Also, there's fantastic Carolina Hurricanes scarves on there, custom made, so check them out before they're gone. So please check out everything in the description box. Let's go ahead and dive into this video. So as far as this video, this is going to be a little bit of a free discussion. I don't really plan to do a ton of editing to this video. I just kind of wanted to have an open discussion, take a look at everything, give you guys some of my thoughts, and basically just start a big open discussion on everything that's gone down so far here in the NHL. It has been a crazy week of trades, and I figure we might as well start with the team that has probably made the biggest statement this past week or so, and that would be the New York Rangers. Obviously, the New York Rangers have a fantastic team. You know, getting somebody like Vinny Trocheck in the offseason was fantastic for solidifying that second line. And adding a player like Tarasenko. Tarasenko was a player I was really hoping the Carolina Hurricanes would add. Rangers went out and got it. And for a lot of us, we thought that move meant Patrick Kane wasn't going to be going there. Well, to our surprise, shock, whatever, the Rangers made it work, man. Kane made it very clear he did not want to go anywhere else but to the New York Rangers. And the Rangers acquired forward Patrick Kane and defenseman Cooper Zek from the Blackhawks in a 3-team trade with the Arizona Coyotes. The Blackhawks received defenseman Adam Walensky, a conditional second-round pick in the 2023 NHL Draft, and a fourth-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft from the Rangers, and defenseman Vili Sarijarvi from the Coyotes. The Coyotes acquired a third-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. Kane sent to the Rangers by Blackhawks in the 3-team trade. So, pretty crazy that this trade went down. Obviously, having to get a third team in there to take on the salary, and that puts the Rangers in a very interesting spot. And here's my overall thoughts on this. On paper, the New York Rangers are stacked. They are stacked as they get ready to head into this playoff. I mean, you've got Kane going back to basically team up with Panarin. Him and Panarin were phenomenal together prior. They have a lot of chemistry. They are friends. And the fact that those two are going to be back together most likely, I mean, it's just crazy. Like I said, you've added Vinny Trocheck in the offseason. You got Panarin. You got Zibanejad. I mean, and then you've got your third line, the kid line. I mean, the Rangers on paper are stacked, and they appear to be one of the teams to be going into this playoffs. But once again, like I said, on paper, we need to see if the chemistry comes through with all these players. I know a lot of Rangers fans, you may hate me for saying this, but just because on paper you've put together and went out there and grabbed these phenomenal players does not mean the chemistry and everything is going to come together and this team is guaranteed to go to the Stanley Cup. Winning the Stanley Cup is one of the hardest things any team can do. It is a grind to make it through all the rounds of the playoffs. These 7-game rounds, it's grueling. It's hard. And I think in a lot of ways, the Rangers, as far as scoring, as far as creating opportunities, they have set themselves up to take it all the way this year. I have no doubt of that. Kane and Panarin being back together is going to be deadly. Having Tarasenko in there, Zibanejad, it's just unbelievable the talent the Rangers have. And they are all in for this year. Guaranteed they are 100% committed to winning the Stanley Cup this year. And, if I was a Rangers fan, I'd be pumped about that. My worry for the Rangers is on the blue line. I feel like they needed more help on the blue line. I feel like that should have been where they focused after getting Tarasenko. I get that, stealing Patrick Kane for what they were able to do. It's hard to pass that up. But I really do think, depth-wise, defensively, the Rangers are still a little bit weak there. That is a weak spot. Obviously, having Igor Shesterkin in the net, makes you feel good. But if you don't have the solid depth in the blue line for the playoffs, if you don't have enough grit back there, if you don't have enough players that can play solid two-way defense, you can only take it so far. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out. I'm interested to see where the Rangers are able to take this. Obviously, how far the Rangers went last year, they feel like they are a few acquisitions away from being able to win it all, and I don't blame them one bit. And adding players like Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, it could be the moves that put them over for this year. So interesting to see. As far as both of those trades, Rangers did give up some of the future in order to win it all this year. Can't say I blame them, though. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Now, let's go ahead and dive into another trade here. So one that has not officially made it onto the NHL trade waiver wire or whatever. So it hasn't been completely made official, but reports have come in that the Kings have traded Jonathan Quick to the Blue Jackets, and they are acquiring Korpisalo and Gavrikov. So this one's an interesting one. First off, I feel like the Kings are kind of doing Jonathan Quick dirty. Now, mind you, Jonathan Quick is not having a good year whatsoever. So him being moved, I guess, isn't a complete surprise. But, this was a guy that backstopped them for multiple Stanley Cup runs. And it's tough to see. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of people on that team. I know Kopitar is one. There's a lot of players on that team that really love Jonathan Quick. The fan base loves Jonathan Quick. And to see him just kind of get tossed out like that here at the trade deadline is hard to see. But at the end of the day, the Kings felt like they needed to make some moves, bringing in Korpisalo. Salo's been very, very solid this year. He definitely has a lot better numbers than Jonathan Quick, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm assuming Korpisalo is going to slot in there and be that number 2, and we'll see where this takes it. And ultimately, I think the biggest piece in this is acquiring Gavrikov. Obviously, the Blue Jackets have been looking to move Gavrikov. There was reports he was originally going to go to Boston, and then Boston made that deal with Washington, so that did not end up playing out. But the Blue Jackets, they ended up getting Quick, and they ended up getting a first and a third for Gavrikov. Now, the worry, I think, for Kings fans is you bring in Gavrikov, you gave up quite a bit for him. He's been somebody who's been vocal about wanting to test free agency. He is a unrestricted free agent. Will he re-sign beyond this? I will say, ultimately, the winner of this trade immediately is the Kings. But if Gavrikov does not re-sign for the upcoming few years to come, if he's not willing to get signed, say, a 4-year, $4 million contract, and he does test free agency and he does leave in free agency, I think the Kings are going to be kicking themselves in the ass for how much they gave up for basically, a 1-year rental. But we'll see. They needed the defense. They needed somebody that could play tough, gritty defensively, and Gavrikov is definitely going to be an upgrade on that blue line. So we will see how that all ultimately plays out. All right, let's flip through here, talk about a few other trades. We've got the Oilers, who acquired defenseman Matthias Ekholm and a 6th-round pick from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Tyson Barrie, forward Reed Schaefer, and a 1st-round pick in the 2023 NHL Draft and a 4th-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. I saw this one and it kind of blew my mind. First off, giving up Tyson Barrie, I did not think the Oilers were going to give up Tyson Barrie. There was a lot of players on that team that liked Tyson Barrie, and I really thought that he was a player that they were going to lean on for the future. Obviously, acquiring Ekholm 100% upgrades the Oilers' defense. Adding Ekholm is definitely one of the pieces that they needed on that blue line, but what they gave up for Ekholm, I don't know if this is going to be a win or not. Ultimately, we'll see. Only one team is going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and I get that all these teams are going out there and they're being aggressive. They're making these deals, but you gave up a lot for Mattias Ekholm, and I think for the Predators, selling off some of these pieces, great. It's phenomenal what they've been able to acquire for some of the pieces that they have moved off so far here as we head into the trade deadline. And getting a player like Tyson Barrie and even a player like Reed Schaefer. I'm very high on a player like Reed Schaefer. I think he's got a lot of talent. He could be a very, very solid player for them. And then obviously that first-round pick. The 2023 NHL draft is so deep. As many first-round picks as some of these teams can get, first round, second rounds, it is so deep that I feel like it is the perfect draft to acquire as much capital as you can heading into it. And I think for the Predators, I mean, this was a phenomenal trade. Giving up Ekholm for all these picks and some of this young talent, great for them. Does it upgrade, like I said, the Edmonton Oilers defense, but I do feel like the Oilers gave up a little bit too much in this, but we will see how that works out. Another big deal, the Toronto Maple Leafs were wheeling and dealing. They did acquire defenseman Luke Schenn from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a third-round pick. Obviously, this was a piece that the Maple Leafs needed, and this isn't the first trade that they have made. So let's go ahead and flip down here. So the Maple Leafs also acquired defenseman Jack McCabe, forward Sam Lafferty, and a conditional fifth-round pick. And let's see. And a conditional fifth-round pick from the Blackhawks in exchange for forward Joey Anderson, forward Pavel Gogolev, and a conditional first-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft and a second-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft. I thought this was a fantastic move by the Toronto Maple Leafs, going out there, getting a guy like Jack McCabe, a guy like Sam Lafferty, adds a ton of depth, really solidifies that Maple Leafs blue line, and at the same time, it's pretty crazy. I thought that when they made this move for the defense that they weren't going to make any more moves, but now they've got Jack McCabe. They added a solid forward, so added some depth with Sam Lafferty. And then also, adding a player like Luke Schenn. It's going to be interesting to see what they ultimately do with their blue line. They've got a lot of defensemen there, and I feel like the Maple Leafs are not done making trades. I think you're going to see some potential defensemen get moved out, and you're going to potentially see some more wheeling and dealing before Friday's trade deadline. So this was a great move, I think, for Jack McCabe. They did give up a lot, but at the end of the day, the Maple Leafs, they only have Austin Matthews under contract for a little bit longer, and they really need to go all in. These guys, haven't made it to the second round and how long? So for the Maple Leafs, this is the year where they really need to make a push in the playoffs, and defensively has been one of the areas that they have struggled with. So adding Jack McCabe, adding Luke Schenn, I mean, they're definitely another team going all in, and I think that this is the trade that had to be made. I also think that acquiring Luke Schenn for basically just a third-round pick, I think that adds depth, it adds grit. He's a big defenseman, and he's a solid guy, and him going back to the Maple Leafs, I think, was definitely a good move, another good move that they were able to do. So it'll be interesting to see what else the Maple Leafs are able to do before the deadline. Also, at the same time, this was another one that the Maple Leafs made that was interesting. So the Capitals acquired Rasmus Sandin, so a Maple Leafs defensive prospect, somebody that I thought that they were going to hang on to, in exchange for defenseman Eric Gustafsson and a first-round pick in the 2023 NHL draft. So, once again, like I said, Maple Leafs have acquired 3 defensemen. You've got Gustafsson, you've got Schenn, you've got, let's see here, I'm having a moment, we were just talking to Jack McCabe. I think with Gustafsson, you're adding some veteran leadership. You're also adding somebody that is a good puck mover. So whereas you've got Schenn and you've got McCabe, who are a bit more defensively focused, you've got Gustafsson, who's a little bit more offensively focused. So I'm very interested to see where they're going to pair all these guys and just how this defensive core is going to look for the Maple Leafs, because they have made so many moves this week. And really, ultimately, man, they need these guys to come in. They need them to start to gel, and they need them to click, and they need to figure out what pairings are going to work and how this is going to all come together for the playoffs. This is a lot of moves. It's a lot of shakeup on their blue line, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out for them. But like I said just a moment ago, Maple Leafs are all in, man. They are making a lot of moves. I'm very surprised that they gave up Sandin. And this is a great move for the Capitals. They got younger. They got a young, fresh talent in Rasmus Sandin. And the Capitals, obviously, it looks like they're kind of packing it in for this season. They realize the writing is on the wall. They need to retool. They need to get younger. They need to bring in some picks. They need to bring in some younger players. And they are doing just that with a move like this. Let's take a peek here. So, obviously, you guys know I cover a ton of Carolina Hurricanes stuff. Hurricanes have only made one move this week, and I know the fan base is not excited about this. I know a lot of people are like, you know, we didn't get aggressive enough. We didn't pick up Timo Meier, which I will talk about the Timo Meier trade in just a moment. Obviously, probably the biggest blockbuster move of the entire week. But the Carolina Hurricanes, they acquired forward Jesse Puljujarvi from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for the rights to the unsigned draft choice forward Patrick Pustola. I like this move. Now I'm going to tell you guys why I like this move. First off, Patrick Pustola, very, very young, up-and-coming talent, and I think he could eventually be a very, very solid NHL player, but he's not NHL ready yet. So giving up him for Jesse Puljujarvi. Now Puljujarvi, a former 3rd overall pick, and he's just a guy that has not found his game in Edmonton. Now this isn't to shit on the Edmonton Oilers, but you know, there have been some players that Edmonton has not done a good job of grooming, of working up and getting their full potential out of. I mean, it isn't the first time a player has left Edmonton and has thrived somewhere else. I like this move. Puljujarvi was phenomenal with Sebastian Aho. They were on the Finnish team, the Finnish junior team that won the gold medal. They put up a ton of points between the two of them. I think it was something like 27 to 31 points between the two that year, back in, I believe it was 2016. So I'm excited. I think Puljujarvi, you know, this is a big boy. He's 6'4", 200-something pounds. He's a guy that, you know, I watched some film. I don't really follow a ton of Edmonton Oilers games, but I did go back and watch some film on him before making this video because I was very intrigued by this trade. And I know a lot of people have been shitting that, oh my God, this is the only move we're making. We need scoring depth. We need guys that can score. We need a pure goal scorer to replace Max Pacioretty. And we pick up Puljujarvi, a guy that can't finish this year. I get it. It looks bad. I understand why people are upset. There's still time. There's still time to make moves. I think the Hurricanes are going to still make moves. But I think taking a flyer on a former 3rd overall pick, a guy that just has not worked out in Edmonton, a guy that is now being reunited, and, you know, I'm not saying he's going to come in here and play on the top line with Sebastian Aho. I'm not saying that. But this is a guy that he needed a fresh start, 100%. And what we gave up for him, this is another genius deal by Don Waddell. Because guess what? He's an RFA. We'll still have the rights to this guy. We can sign him potentially for pretty cheap if we want to continue to keep him beyond this year. He only hits our salary cap $3 million for this year. That still leaves us, I believe, roughly $7 million to wheel and deal and make more deals before the deadline. And guess what? If this guy finds his game, if this guy ends up even coming up with 75% of the potential that people thought he could be as a player, this is a 100% steal. It is a win. And I've, like I said, watched the film. This is a guy that goes out there and he plays hard every single night. He gives it his all. You can tell that he wants to be there. He wants, and I think a change of scenery, we're just going to see even more from him. And if anybody can get the best out of this guy, like I said, putting him back on a team with Aho, putting him on a team with Rob Brindamore, who has gotten the most out of every single player on this team. You know, and Puljujarvi is a guy that wants to succeed in the NHL. He's the type of player that could come in and revitalize his career with the Carolina Hurricanes. You know, a lot of people were shitting on the Hurricanes when they brought in Tony DeAngelo, and guess what? Look what he did. He revitalized his career. He had a phenomenal season with us, and we flipped him for assets. You know, And I think Puljujarvi is another reclamation project that I get that when you're looking at the team and what we need to go into the playoffs to make a push for the Stanley Cup, this doesn't jump off the paper as the greatest move. And ultimately, I was super disappointed when we did not push for the Timo Meier sweepstakes. I think Timo Meier was the type of player we really, really needed. But I do like picking up Jesse Puljujarvi. And if this guy ends up working out and he ends up finding his game and he ends up building confidence on this team, he could be a phenomenal first or second line player for us for years to come. So keep an eye on that. Don't hate on it completely. Give it a chance. Let's see how it works out ultimately. And on that note, let's go ahead and talk about one of the biggest trades of the week. The Devils acquired Timo Meier and Timur Ibragimov, defenseman Scott Harrington, Santeri Hataka, goalie Zachary Edmond, and a fifth-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for forwards Fabian Zetterlund, Andreas Johnson, a defenseman Shakir Mook, let's see if I can do this, Shakir Mook Hamadulin, and Nikita Okoituk, and a conditional first-round pick in the 2023 NHL Draft, a conditional second-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft, and a seventh-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. So, boom, mind blown. The Devils are all in. They got Timo Meier. And to be honest, I'm surprised that they didn't have to give up more for this. I thought they were going to have to give up a top prospect, a top player on that team in order to get him. I do think for the Sharks, Fabian Zetterlund, very, very good player. I think he has a ton of upside. He's a guy that could really get solidified on their third and even has the potential to be a solid second-line player for them for the future as they, look to retool and look to rebuild that team from the ground up. Andreas Johnson, solid, veteran, will definitely be able to play on that team, third, fourth line. I would see him fitting in, and I think he's just a solid, veteran that will provide some depth for them on that team. Now, one that I think people are looking over is Nikita Okoituk. I've watched this guy. I've seen his game. I'm very high on Nikita Okoituk. He's a phenomenal defenseman, and I think he could end up being a guy that in a few years really makes a statement on that San Jose Sharks defensive line. So keep an eye on that. I do think that getting Nikita Okoituk is a steal for the San Jose Sharks. I think he's somebody that is really going to work out for them. Obviously acquiring a first-round pick in the 2023 NHL Draft and a second-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. I was surprised there weren't more picks in this. I thought, obviously the first, the second, and a seventh. I thought that there'd have to at least be another third, maybe a fourth in there for getting Timo Meier. So I think ultimately the New Jersey Devils stole Timo Meier in this trade. But I do think the San Jose Sharks, for those of you that are Sharks fans that feel like you didn't get enough for Timo Meier, like I said, keep an eye. Fabian Zetterlund, Nikita Okoituk, I think are both going to be really good players in the future. And you guys got a first-round pick, man, in the deepest draft that we've seen in years. This draft is going to be phenomenal this year. And the more assets that you guys can get, especially in the first round of this upcoming draft, the better. And the San Jose Sharks are only going to be building and getting better for the future in this. And man, oh man, the Devils have gotten deadly and dangerous with Timo Meier on there. You can pair him up with Nico Hischier, you can pair him up with Jack Hughes. Either line, this guy is phenomenal. And what's great about Timo Meier is not only can he play the right wing, he can play the left wing. He's dangerous on both sides. He's big, he's physical, and he's a guy that can put up points, man. And the Devils are already phenomenal at putting up points. So I'm interested to see what other moves the Devils make. I think a little bit more depth on the blue line the Devils could use, but I think that this move was phenomenal for them, and they are clearly making a push. They are not a team that's just looking to make it, this year in the playoffs. They're looking to go all the way. So, man, the Eastern Conference, man, it is a killer's row. Let's go ahead and dive into another trade here. Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring Tanner Jeannot in exchange for Cal Foote. So Cal Foote's a defenseman. They also gave up a conditional first-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft, a second-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft, and a third, fourth, and fifth-round pick in the 2023 NHL Draft. So my mind was absolutely blown as to how much the Lightning gave up for Tanner Jeannot. Ultimately, for the Predators, man, As much as it sucks that they've given up some of their players, obviously they traded out Nino Ryder. Now they gave up Jeannot. They have given up Ekholm. They've given up a lot of players this year, but man, have they gotten back a ton of young players, a ton of draft capital. If you're a Nashville Predators fan, I know it sucks to watch a team rebuild, but you guys have the pieces. If this is done correctly, the Predators have the draft capital, they have the young players, they have the pieces to build this team, to build around Juuse Saros, to build around some of the phenomenal pieces that are on that team and make this team better for years to come. I'm telling you, if the Predators do things correctly, in a couple years, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially with all the moves that they've made here at this trade deadline. And for the Lightning, how can I question or criticize? You know, these guys are a team that is known to make some deals that don't seem overly flashy at the trade deadline, bring in these pieces that end up working out phenomenally for them going into the playoffs. Jeannot is a hard-nosed, gritty guy, not afraid to throw down the gloves. He is the type of player that the Lightning love to have on this team, especially as you head into the playoffs. Also, he's an RFA, so they're not going to lose him. He's not just going to be a guy that comes in for a one-off this year. He's a guy that they will have his rights retained. So it's interesting to see where things go with that. I'm interested to see. I do feel like they gave up way more than I would have given up for him. But you know what? I'm not a GM, so we'll see. I can't question the Lightning. There's a reason why they were back-to-back Stanley Cup winners. And also, you know, there's a reason why they made it to the finals last year. So we'll see how this overall plays out. Another small trade that was made, Avalanche acquired defenseman Jack Johnson back from the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, Jack Johnson was a part of last year's Stanley Cup run, so I think that that was a pretty solid move for them, bringing him back and getting him back in the equation as they attempt to defend their Stanley Cup title. Dallas Stars acquired forward Evgeny Dadonov from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Forrest Denis Gurianov. I think this was a genius move for Montreal. I did not think that they would get much of anything for Dadonov, and getting a young guy like Gurianov, a guy that, you know, has shown in the past that he is a very, very good player. He's got crazy speed, great goal scoring ability. He's shown flashes of being a really, really good second line forward. And I think if the Canadiens can nurture his talent and really give him an opportunity to succeed, he could be a phenomenal player for the Montreal Canadiens going forward. Obviously, Dadonov's a bit older, and the Dallas Stars are looking to bring him in to kind of switch things up, to add a little bit of veteran depth and a guy that can score goals. And even though Dadonov hasn't had a great year, I get why they would want to make this move, and I think it was time for Gurianov to get a fresh start. So him moving on to the Canadiens, I think this is a great move for them, and I'm interested to see if Gurianov can fulfill the talent that he has shown in the past. Winnipeg Jets acquiring Nino Niederreiter from the Predators in exchange for a second-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. Love this move. I know a lot of Predators fans are sad to see Niederreiter go. I'm a Kane fan, man. I was sad to see Niederreiter go to the Nashville Predators during the offseason. So that's just the kind of player Niederreiter is, man. He is a fan favorite. He is a hard-nosed player. You know, the guy, he's just, what can't you love about him? You know, he's a guy that could play on your third line, your second line. He's just a solid NHL talent that is a fan favorite. He's also an instigator. We love to watch him go out there. He loves to get under other players' skins. He's just the kind of player that fan bases love. And, you know, Winnipeg, enjoy it while you got him. You've got him locked up not only for this year, you'll have him for next year. And Winnipeg, you are going to love having, you know, Niederreiter. I could tell you that because us Caniacs, we loved having him here in Carolina. Vancouver Canucks acquiring Vitaly Kravtsov from the New York Rangers in exchange for forward William Lockwood in a 7th-round pick. This was a goddamn steal. Wonderful move. I'm so glad to see the Canucks making moves that make sense. Kravtsov is a hell of a talent. He has just not fit in well with the future plans for the Rangers. There's just no room on that team for him anywhere on that first, second, third, and sometimes even fourth line. You know, the guy has not gotten the minutes. He's not gotten the chance to succeed, and him getting a fresh start, he asked for a trade, and the Canucks stole him, giving up only William Lockwood and a 7th-round pick for Kravtsov. Fantastic. Kravtsov is a guy that has the potential. He's big, he's physical, and he has the potential to be a player that could work out really, really well in that first, second, and God forbid it doesn't work out that well. He's still a guy that I could see being a future, even third-line player for years to come. Canucks, I think you're going to really, really enjoy this move. I think he's a phenomenal young player to bring in there, and you guys basically stole him from the New York Rangers. So definitely A+ for the Canucks on getting that player on that deal. Boston Bruins, obviously that team is having a phenomenal year so far, and picking up defenseman Dmitry Orlov and Garnett Hathaway. I mean, what more can I say about this? The Capitals making moves to get younger, making moves to retool for the years to come, and the Bruins going all in this year. The Bruins have already been phenomenal, and adding Dmitry Orlov to that defensive core just makes him that much better. Adding Garnett Hathaway for depth, and also Hathaway is a guy that, man, he's not afraid to go out there, get physical, to get into fights. He's the type of player that you guys are going to want, and that just adds even more toughness, grit, sandpaper to a Bruins team that already has tough grit and sandpaper. So, man, the Bruins are going to be a team to reckon with going into this year's playoffs. And, I mean, the Eastern Conference, guys, it is a goddamn murderer's row. When you take a look at the Rangers, the Bruins, the Devils, and even my Carolina Hurricanes, even though we haven't made a ton of moves yet, these teams, man, I mean, they're just, it's phenomenal. I have never been more excited for the NHL, for watching hockey, for watching this year's playoffs. I am so pumped. These moves have just been phenomenal, and the Bruins, man, all in. They know that they don't have a ton of time left with Patrice Bergeron, so really I think this is the year they've got to take it all the way. They almost did last year. They had a really solid team, got knocked out by, obviously, the Hurricanes, and I think that with how well they're playing this year, they were just a couple pieces away from really solidifying that team, and this is definitely the year for the Bruins, man. I mean, obviously I'm not a big Bruins fan, but I can't take away from the talent that they have, from the moves that they've made, and this was a win-win for both sides. Obviously, the Bruins got what they needed in this, and the Capitals are going to get what they need ultimately out of this. They get younger, they get some capital, some picks for the upcoming drafts. Win-win, ultimately. Well, let's see. Is there any other trades I really wanted to talk about? Obviously, Rangers acquiring Tyler Mott. I thought that was a good one from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for forward Julien Gauthier. Gauthier is a big physical forward. Hasn't really panned out yet in New York, but I think the Senators are going to like having Gauthier. I do like Gauthier, and I think he's a potential player that, he could be a really solid third, fourth line player for years to come. So not a bad move for the Senators as they retool. Obviously, we already talked about the Tarasenko trade, one that kind of glossed over because it happened back on February 17th, but the biggest deal that I felt like was the best move by the Maple Leafs, acquiring Ryan O'Reilly. I'm super high on Ryan O'Reilly. I think he has so far looked phenomenal with the Maple Leafs. I think that was the biggest win, one of the biggest wins here, as we head towards the trade deadline. And he was a player that I was really hoping the Carolina Hurricanes would go after. They did not. And like I said, the Maple Leafs, man, they are wheeling, they are dealing. They added all those defensemen. They added Ryan O'Reilly. They are all in this year. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think O'Reilly, though, adds a ton of veteran leadership. He really solidifies that second line as your second line center. And I think he's going to do even better not being that number one guy. I think at this stage of Ryan O'Reilly's career, him not being the number one guy, the guy that's expected to go out there and win games every single night, I think him being in a more comfortable spot in the second line, and like I said, veteran leadership, he's still a very good player. Tons of playoff experience. He's going to really, Maple Leafs, you're going to love him. I think you already do love having him as your second line center. That was a phenomenal trade. And then obviously we get back to the Bo Horvat trade to the New York Islanders. I think that was a great move. I think the Canucks losing Bo Horvat, their captain, it really sucks. You guys locked up JT Miller, you lost Bo Horvat. It is what it is. It's a win-win for the Islanders. I do think the Canucks are going to really like Anthony Beauvillier, though. And Aatu Räty, keep an eye out for him. He is a guy that was at one point looked to be a first-round player, and I think that for years to come, the Vancouver Canucks are going to really like Aatu Räty. I think this guy has got a phenomenal shot. I think he is going to be a great goal scorer for them. And if he comes into this if he lives up to the potential that I think he has, he could be a phenomenal Vancouver Canuck going forward. And once again, I think Beauvillier, he's already looked really, really good with them. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. So, yeah, guys, I think that is most of the big moves that I wanted to talk about. Let's see here. Obviously, also the Golden Knights added forward Ivan Barbashev from St. Louis Blues in exchange for forward Zach Dean. I also think adding Barbashev adds some depth to that team. I think that was a solid move by the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, the Golden Knights don't have a ton of cap space. They have been cap strapped. I mean, they had to give up Pacioretty before this year for basically nothing. So whatever moves they're able to make to add some depth, I think definitely solid for the Golden Knights. But is it enough ultimately, especially with the way some of these other teams are looking? I just don't think that's going to be enough to give the Vegas Golden Knights, an edge as they head into the playoffs. But you never know. You never know what team's going to be able to take it to the next level. But tons of moves, and yeah, we'll see what else is going to go down. It has been a busy few days. I'm excited to see. It's only Wednesday. We got today, we got tomorrow, we got Friday. I'm interested to see what other moves go down. To be honest with you guys, let's go ahead and take a peek and see if there is any other updates before we jump off of this video. I figure I might as well check and see that nothing else has gone down. So it does not look like any other moves have been made, or at least nothing else has been broken. Let's go ahead and check out. I love Frank Zaravelli's Twitter. He really does know what's going on. He's great at breaking news. And let's see. Yep, I agree with him on this report about the moves possibly, or the Leafs possibly moving a defenseman. I definitely think that that's going to happen. Obviously, yeah, that was one thing I heard. Jonathan Quick not happy at all about this move. And, guys, don't be surprised if Quick, doesn't suit up for Columbus. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he just calls it a career. We'll see what happens. I know he's not happy about being moved, so we'll see. Obviously, Jacob Chikrin is a guy that is still out there that teams are looking to possibly pick up. So definitely some more moves are going to happen, and I will try to get more videos out to you guys in the next couple days as more trades are broken. So I'll be keeping an eye on things today. Thank you guys for coming out and checking out the content. Sorry I wasn't able to get this to you guys earlier. I still wanted to make this, though, and talk about all this. And I want to know, ultimately, what do you guys think? Are you guys happy with the trades that your teams have made? Are there trades that you wish your teams ultimately made? What do you guys think overall of everything going on? Leave it in the comment section below. We'll start a discussion, and ultimately, you guys know I will respond to all your guys' comments and would love to talk more hockey. So, you guys, until next time, thank you guys for checking out the channel. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Jeremy's Point of View. Until next time, peace. We will run ourselves with